I watch a fair amount of video essays, and one in particular stuck with me. Or maybe multiple regarding the same game. They were about a game called Pathologic, and in particular, hbomber Guy's analysis had a thought that struck me as particularly interesting. In my own words, the idea he conveyed, or more accurately, the question he asked, is this: video games are meant to be fun, but should they always be? My answer is simply no. I've always wanted to be somewhat of a polymath. Someone who dabbled in a little bit of everything just because it intellectually satisfies them. However, something I've noticed is that polymaths can only truly use their talents in the arts. I'm not very artistic. I've never been keen on drawing, nor painting, nor on writing long drawn out novels. But one thing I've always been keen on is video games, and how they tell a story. Because of this, I've always been fascinated with making my own games, conveying stories and messages in a way that no other medium can. And as much as I love this medium, I have maybe chosen one of the most difficult mediums in which I can express myself. Writing a video game, whether it's script or it's code, it's a long journey that can take months or sometimes years. That's why, if you're ever to look through the history of my channel, you'll find many devlogs lasting one, possibly only 2 episodes. Because stability of dedication and drive is something I don't have to be able to see through many of my ideas to the end. It's always been a struggle of burnout, where I can pour countless hours into the project in a span of a week or two, only to burn myself out of ever pursuing the project to its end. I hope to one day soon, hopefully before I graduate high school or sometime in college, to publish my own game, but that's the future. Recently I've had an idea for a game, and although I don't wish to talk much about the idea until it's more fleshed out, I've begun implementing it. I posted a video many months back about a 2D text-based game engine that I created. This contained a story similar to what I'm creating now, but with no direction. I've realized since that I need a beginning and end atmosphere to a story. Back then, I had no beginning nor end, just an atmosphere. I strived back then to create a game that would give the player unprecedented freedom and choice and an interesting and unique combat system. I've scraped both the unprecedented freedom and the combat system entirely in the hopes of creating a game that plays entirely into story. I want to make a polished system where choices do still matter, not always in the sense that they impact the story, but that they impact the player. One night, I formulated all these ideas. I find that in the twilight between sleep and consciousness, I'm at my most creative, although not most productive. But when I have an inescapable idea, I write it down, and the majority of this game comes from an inescapable idea that was floating around in my mind for multiple days. Looking back at the 2D RPG I made a few months back, it was an interesting feat that I created. It was somewhat of a game framework or game engine built on top of an already existing one. I decided to take it one step further in a way that would make writing these kinds of games more tolerable. Instead of a cumbersome system in Java that required an absurd amount of files and classes to create a simple project, I created a system entirely based on .txt files that would be parsed into a fully fledged game. Partway into the project, I realized I was making to some extent my own coding language and a compiler/parser. I would not consider what I made good for public uses, as it's written in Godot with GDScript and has a lot of intricacies that are built specifically for what I want to create. However, for my purposes, it is a perfect creation. Although I may work on this game on and off, I'm still fond of the idea behind the story. If that is something that can drive me to seeing a conclusion, then it's something I look forward to. In the meantime, here's a demo of the opening scenes of the game, which I simply called Beach. Good evening, morning, and afternoon, visitor.